you like, you know that it's going to be guilty when that happens. But there's a lot of stuff, you know, we were split on the polls online and we're talking about all these things, but when you're in that room and you feel the energy of the lawyers and they felt the energy of Alec while he was up there, then they can tell. You know, you can tell from being in the room with someone more than you can tell on a screen, which is why sometimes I hate these virtual hearings and things like that.
Well, and we talked about...
So I trust that, you know, and you felt Judge Newman and how he felt about it too, being in the room that whole time. And so I think where I was not satisfied with the evidence, and I think the cops, everybody could have done a better job. I've always said that. This investigation was derailed from the housekeeper cleaned 8 hours after. But it gave me even more confidence in his guilt, the way that the jury came back so fast and the way that Judge Newman felt. I was like, whatever the energy in that room was, it was... he's lying.
Well, I was going to say the exact same thing. Like, the pretty bow that we kind of wanted to be wrapped up, I almost got from Judge Newman talking and the jury and how they felt. Just because I was like, and especially because, you know, the judge I respected so much by the end of it, that when he was like, this evidence was overwhelming and I totally agree, then I was like, that's all I need. Okay. I agree with whatever you say. So
we love him.
You know, whatever you say. Yes. Guilty. No questions asked.
That goes back to what we're talking about. You know, we've watched him be consistently a good, not just a good judge, but a good human through this whole thing with temperament and respect for everybody involved. And so that credibility that he has with us.
And he's done so many of these trials.
And that confidence,
you know,
the confidence in what he said.
Consecutive life and we're sick of you lying.
Come back, you're going back.
Yeah. But I did think, you know, and for those of you who missed the podcast, we did talk about how the jury members were now speaking about their experience with this trial, and that the tears were not real tears that Alec had. And I thought that I know we just kind of touched on that, but I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, they talked about how we were like
he cried the whole time, you know?
Yeah,
he looks real in the pictures.
It looks real. Yeah. It was a real good farce, I guess would be the word, or production. But they talked about that. I was 3 feet from him. There was not one, and I watched his eyes the whole time. There was not one tear that was shed.
So interesting to me. The stuff that you don't get, you watch it, but you don't get that.
Because this is my thing. Like when people talk about Buster being unaffected and just witnesses in general, when they don't have like this strong emotion like I have, that doesn't bother me. You know, because I understand.
I am that person.
I get
if
that.
I had to testify,
I get that about human, right?
Crying
Yeah.
Because I'm just not going to ever do that in front of anybody.
Yeah.
It's just who I am. Like, I'll cry in my car and I'll cry in my bed, but like, I'm not going to cry in front of a bunch of people, especially when I'm being watched and I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like, it takes me a minute to process all those things.
Do you
but it
show
doesn't
any
mean
kind of body language? Do you breathe heavily? Do you?
I'm sure if you like hooked me up to a heart rate monitor and my heart rate's like through the roof, but I'm not gonna like.
You don't show anything.
And it might sometimes show more.
She's like a poker face.
It might sometimes show more as anger too when I'm upset, and it's like if it might come out as anger. Which makes me, if I'm up there on trial for murder, I'm looking guilty as hell. Because it's like she's angry and she's not crying.
I could see her doing it for
if that happened and Sarah were my client, then we address it. We address. I just like, where are we at? You talk about it.
And I'm more sympathetic to people who don't, because I understand why.
No, that makes sense.
Not everything that hurts like makes me cry.
That part. And when you're in shock.
But sometimes Amy cries over things that make her happy, sad. Like if she comes in crying, you really have to ask why, because it could be the worst day or the best day of her life
ever.
She's crying. So it's like people are just different with that. I mean, and he's also like has no empathy if he really is this narcissist.
I think we know
that he is, and so that's why he's not crying, but I don't think that explains it for everybody.
No. So to get up there and like,
for Buster, I mean, if I'm Buster and like my brother's killed, my mom's killed, my dad's going to prison, like I don't know that I'm up there weeping either. I'm just like I'm going to be
out of body experience.
Working that out. Like, that's going to take me a long time to process all of that.
A shell of a person.
I am like empty inside.
There's nothing left to cry, right? I mean, it's been 2 years. There's nothing left
I'm empty
in me.
inside. And so I don't. Buster's difficult for me. I know some people really hate him and some people really feel bad for him.
Yeah, true.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until he gives me a reason not to.
Right.
Until I see something in the way of evidence that tells me that he has done something bad or participated in. Because even when I listen to the jailhouse calls, he will not participate in those things with his dad that he's asked him to do. Yeah, I didn't do that. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk about that. Like, you know?
Yeah.
And so until I see some kind of evidence that ties him to Stephen Smith, I can't go there. You know, I'm just got to have something else.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that yet. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and be sad for him because he's lost everything.
I have no opinion on Buster.
It's tough, no matter.
But I don't blame him for not crying.
Yeah.
Nah.
But I feel like you would have been consistent the whole way, like talking about the way that you react. I think people were expecting a reaction from him because of the way he was acting the whole time, of like shaking his head and crying and all this stuff. So then when he
never cried.
Well, yes, but you know what I mean, like the fake cry.
Oh, you're talking about Alex.
Yeah, Alex.
We're talking about Buster. Yeah.
Buster.
Oh, sorry. No, I should have clarified that.
I think with Alex, it just felt like a show.
Yeah.
And it was.
So it was like the show was over.
He was playing the system.
Yeah.
And it kind of like the system had already played him. By the time he had to start his testimony with, I was lying, I was there. It's like, okay.
Okay, well, might as well get off now because we're not going to believe anything he said.
You can't just be like, you just lied to us for 2 weeks. The GM people had to bring the data, and now you're going to tell the truth.
Let's talk about the field trip that was taken for the jury to go to Moselle. I know a lot of people were really surprised by that, and then also really bummed that they weren't there to be able to see what happened. Is that something that I've never heard of that happening before? Does that happen a lot with trials? They go to the
I wouldn't say a lot, but it happens.
It's happened.
Grant them all the time.
Yeah.
Amy Z will say,
I
our
love
friend
a
Amy
good.
Zimmercheck, she always asks for a jury view every trial because she's like, you have to be there, you have to feel it, you have to know what happened here, and the judge denies it every single time.
Now, why would the judge deny it? What's the reasoning for that?
It's a pain in the butt to get the jury out there. It has to be like really important, I think, and the judge has to think location is a key part of the case to grant it. But
we
it's
asked for
hard
one
to
in our
say
murder
that.
trial, and they said no.
Yeah,
It was in the middle of COVID too, and it was a 1972 trailer.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I had a friend though try one towards the end of COVID in Columbia, in Richland County, and they did grant for the jury to go, but it was a specific it was a murder case where the person was shot like at a strange angle coming down the steps of an apartment building, and so like took them to where the steps were and stuff.
So it really mattered.
Yeah.
I think they should just allow it in any like murder case.
I think so
The jury
too.
should get to go
Somebody's fighting for their life. Let's give.
because they
them
want to know.
every-
They want to know all of those things, and I'm like, if you're going to put someone on trial for murder, the jury needs to see it.
Does the jury, as they're doing all their interviews and stuff like this, have they talked about
It wasn't. It was not helpful for the defense. It was only helpful for the prosecution.
Yeah, I don't think it helped the
Yeah.
defense.
Gotcha. Because I haven't seen them I haven't seen their interviews.
I think in this case it's also very important because we talked about sound and decibels and distances. If y'all, I know this is going to sound crazy, okay? But I've never heard anybody say, as the crow flies in my life. Have you ever heard that? I've never heard that before. I'm like, what is this, like Game of Thrones? As the crow flies? Like, what does that even mean? I'm not sure still.
Hampton County.
Like Ariel, I don't know, 3 miles or 20 minutes as the crow flies. What? Why are these grown men talking about the crow flying? I don't get it. Anyways, but they talked about how like this crazy distance and all that stuff. So I think for them to go out and walk that property and to see the kennels, and you realize how close Paul and Maggie were to each other. I think all that really mattered.
And to answer, which I don't know because I didn't go there, but I always wondered, like, if he was sleeping in the house, how did he not hear these gunshots going off? The jury view would answer their question about that.
Yeah, the
How
distance.
close was it? Would you have heard it?
Yeah.
When life gets